Madame Web. I don't even know where to start with this film. I know you've seen it absolutely everywhere being memed to death with all the Morbius comparisons, and quite frankly, this film was due to be a train wreck from the first time I ever saw the trailer. But is it really as bad as people are making it out to be? I took myself to the cinema the other day to find out. Genuinely seeing everyone talk about how crap it was really worked in the film's favour, as one, I was never wanting to watch it until I saw how bad it was bombing review-wise, but two, I went in with the absolute lowest expectations, and boy was I still wrong. This is one of those films that let you know that rock bottom has a basement. This is truly something else. Was it so bad that it was good? No, it was just bad, like satirically bad. I genuinely laughed out loud so many times, but exhaled deeply so many more. Watching this made me dumber. But let's leave my opinion for now and break down the plot, I guess. The sequence of images being put before us that tells us a story is what I'm going with. So, Mummy Webb is heavily pregnant and is searching for this mystical spider in the Peruvian rainforest that is meant to cure all diseases. Actually, I can't even be bothered for a plot breakdown. Basically, the notes I made in this film were the dialogue is arse, no characters in the history of cinema have ever uttered some of the sentences I heard in this movie, and I'm pretty sure no humans outside of the writer's room have ever spoken to any other human in the way that these characters communicate in the film. In fact, I don't think the people in the writer's room have ever spoken to any humans outside of the other people in the writer's room. Yet, they were on strike for a solid portion of last year demanding more money. I'm all for a fair wage, but, if you're going to go on strike, actually be good at your job if you want the wage. And the poor talent on screen trying to sell you this dialogue. I wouldn't refer to any of the cast as award-winning, but I definitely don't consider any of the notable ones terrible actors. But the energy they brought to their respective roles was woeful. To be fair to them, I think the majority of the final cut of the movie we got were reshoots once the studio got involved. And if I was called back after spending months shooting to then reshoot the scenes and the lines of dialogue given to me were the ones that made it into the final cut of the movie, I'd probably deliver them in the same way. That is for the actors that even came back for reshoots. The main villain of the movie, generic bad guy, didn't even come back to reshoot any scenes. Instead, they decided to use the worst ADR put to cinema that I have ever seen. Like, who actually greenlit it? There are so many scenes his mouth is just not moving, but we can hear him talk, or it's dubbed, but in the completely wrong time. And it's so evident. And if you're going to do ADR, at least get the actor to feel like they're doing the same things they'd be doing in the scene. Like, there's scenes of him flipping around, but his voice is literally so monotonous, as if he's standing there in the studio booth just reading off these lines. Like, there's no movement, there's no shaking to his voice, no nothing. It doesn't look like he's in action. Actually, no, I do want to talk about the plot again. So, evil guy double crosses Mummy Webb and shoots her to steal the spider she finds. Then the spider people of the forest come to save her, but by the time they get to her, it's too late and she unfortunately passes. What I don't get is that did they even research childbirth at all? Like, if you watch the scene, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And what was up with the weird zoom focus they used throughout that whole scene? Like, it's literally the influencer scroll zoom on a phone but put to cinema. It's a very weird stylistic choice, to say the least. Even then, how did daughter New York get back to New York and into the child foster care system? We don't even get an answer to that. But regarding the bad guy, the only backstory we actually get for him is that his family was poor and hungry and no one helped them out. So now he's evil. Yeah, that's literally all we get. His motivations for wanting the spider and killing was because he was hungry. I wish I was making this up. Anyways, fast forward, he's now rich. We don't know how, but he keeps on having these dreams about these spider girls coming to kill him. And instead of trying to figure out why, if he's a bad guy, he just decides that he just wants to kill them first.
Well, that's just silly.
Silly, yes. Idiotic, yes.
Bear in mind they're like teenagers at the time because these dreams are of the future. Speaking of the Spider Girls, I know that the trailers told us we were going to see non-stop action with them in their costumes, taking down bad guys, but no, literally the only scenes where they're in costume are the ones from the trailer. The rest of the time, they are in what I can only describe as angsty teen attire. So if you wanted action, you're better off watching Morbius. The thing is, the scenes where they're fighting aren't even a part of the timeline. They're just dreams this guy keeps imagining. So they don't even fit into the film's timeline that we're watching. Anyways, back to the dialogue, or more so the exposition. This film literally just has two characters interact with each other to tell the audience what the writers want them to know. There is not a single scene where two characters talk normally. It's always to tell the audience something that they couldn't show because they weren't creative enough. You know the age-old quote, tell not show, right? But one scene takes the cake. How Dakota Johnson finds out the bad guy's motives. Take a guess, actually, as to how she discovers that these girls are being hunted and why. Put your best guesses in the comments, I'll wait. If you guess that she has a dream where the bad guy straight up tells her, then you'd be right. No, not a dream where she peeks into his head or she reads his mind, or where she overhears him talk about it with someone else and she figures it out. No, he just straight up consciously in her brain tells her his plans and why. Great writing. It literally felt like a video game cutscene for the most part. Then there's all the shameless Spider-Man references and winks to the audience. Ben Parker, Spider-Man's uncle, is in this movie, and not once do they make an attempt to give him any sort of backstory or develop his character in any way. He could have been replaced with any other character and it wouldn't have made a difference. Then the scene where his sister, Spider-Man's mum, is talking about naming her baby. And they obviously can't say the name for licensing reasons, but it's all just felt a little unnecessary just to tie it into the Spider-Verse. But from interviews, this film isn't even in the Spider-Verse, so it just didn't really make sense. They added absolutely nothing to the plot or the development of the characters. You could have removed Spider-Man's mum entirely from the film and not a thing would have changed. Other than the whole pregnancy scene, which was the most contrived reason ever to get the girls back out in the open after they were in Ben's house, perfectly safe. Sorry, this review is all over the place, but honestly, so was the film, so you'd have to forgive my scattered brain. I did tell you I felt stupid after watching it. The product placement in the film was jokes too. The worst part is the bad guy was literally defeated by a Pepsi sign. Do you know how funny that is? Like, not the heroes, not through arrogance, and not because he learnt through any lessons or got redeemed. He literally died because a Pepsi sign fell on him. I swear to you, AI couldn't even make this up. This film is an absolute mess, honestly. I'm just reading through the rest of the notes I made in the cinema and they don't even make sense. I can't even remember what I was trying to refer to, but I think I'm going to call it here. Madame Web is absolutely one of the most entertaining watches you will have this year, but definitely not for the reasons that Sony wishes it was. Would I advise parting with your hard-earned cash to watch it? 1,000,000%. As it would give any young aspiring filmmaker hope that they too can be greenlit with a $100 million budget to produce what they were producing in GCSE drama. Take a friend, grab your popcorn and sit back, relax and enjoy an absolute masterclass in how not to make a film.